All right, good afternoon and good morning, everyone, whichever part of the world you are on. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to yet again another month of webinars with Kendra Align. So this is a regular exercise where we bring about education, not just for the Kendra Align product, but for what's happening in the industry and what we are doing as a company to respond to those changes, bring in your feedback in. But before I go ahead, I guess a couple of things in order. The first one is I would take this opportunity to welcome all the new subscribers to Kendra Align and everyone who's first time. If this is the first time you're hearing from us, welcome again, guys. My name is Rich Singh. I'm the Chief Technology Officer for Kendra Align, and I've got my team here with me as well, which I'll introduce in due course. So just a quick couple of things before we get stuck in it. If you have any questions during the session, which we are sure you will, send your questions in the chat window. There's a chat window towards the right side of your screen, and you can send in your questions anytime. Just type those in there. We've got a team of moderators who will try and respond to your questions there, and any good questions we'll actually bring up to the stage, and Damien and I will have a chat about them. Now, just to get started, I guess this image has been in front of me personally for the last 1 month. And here you see a couple of healthcare workers, obviously, in distress. And this is what's happening across the world right now. We are living in a reality that we almost wish that was not there, but we are facing this reality together. And why this image is really important is what it's showing is that the healthcare workers who are the modern day heroes and the real superwomen and supermen around the world, at the moment, COVID-19 is really pressing them hard. So they are, they all have young families and they've got old parents to take care of, and they have themselves to take care of. So I think it's an important lesson while we all stay home. It is a very important lesson that when we stay home or when we go back to work slowly, we have to keep the healthcare system still at the front of our heads. If the healthcare systems across the world still got compromised, the problem of the coronavirus will be much bigger than what it is right now. So what does that mean for us? I guess for everyone who's operating a business or working in a business, we need to now start planning to get back into it. India, Australia, New Zealand, the US, everyone is slowly turning back the action. Workers are returning to work, but we need to win this time, right? And how do we do that in a post-COVID world? I think there's 4 key points, and this is where Kendra Align will step in. A lot of people say safety first, but I think this is the time when everyone in the world truly means safety first. That is literally the first thing in front of every business person, every employee across the world. But it is not enough to say that safety can be run manually, because if you are still signing a paper sheet and you're handing it over to 5 people, well, that can be a potential carrier of the dreaded virus as well. So digital intervention is really, really key at this point in time. And it is something that every business should be looking at. What's really changed again from there is that now employees are deciding whether it is safe to work or not. So me as a supervisor cannot determine anymore whether it is safe to work for my people. The people have to decide whether it is safe enough for them. And how do you do that unless you actually had digital intervention, unless you actually had a platform that could help do that? And the time to act and really work on all those things is now. And this is where you'll see Kendra Align comes in and the new features that we are launching in the market come in. So before we go ahead, obviously, I'll take this opportunity to introduce the next speaker to you, which is Damien, our group CEO and chairman. Damien is not an unknown name for a lot of people in the world now. He's been a decorated business leader for more than 2 decades now, and he's stripped across India as well a couple of times. Some of you have even met him. Damien's really the consolidating force behind the Gibson's group. which operates across Australia and, is one of the very well-known groups in the industries it operates there. Damien's also the founder of Kendra HQ, and, he's recently launched the Kendra Align platform globally. So I'll take 20 seconds from here and welcome Damien on the stage. So please give us 20 seconds while we set up Damien, and he can then come and talk to you.
Hi all and welcome. We're joining here. This is my first time on the platform, so hopefully it goes quite smooth. Today the concept is to sort of showcase Kendra Align. We're trying to achieve this on a monthly basis where we can really go through the features that are getting released on a monthly basis. So the idea of today is to really just run you through some of the new functionality, new features that have been pushed into the platform. I understand there's people who are attending the webinar probably for the first time, and there's people attending the webinar that actually haven't even seen the platform. So I'll hopefully try to cover off a bit of the existing functionality that we've gone through in previous webinars and previous videos, but also really just to focus on some of the new things that are now in the system that you might be wondering what they are and how they appeared. So once a month we'll be trying to get more streamlined, more systemized, so that everyone who's using the platform gets a good understanding of how the new features interact and also what might come in months to come as well. So there's a couple of big things that got released in the last month to do with the Kendra Align system. One of them, actually, I'll start with is what we have this function right up in the top corner here called the Kendra Align System Guide. So that there actually allows you, for a new joinee or a new employee or a new organisation taking on Kendra Align, can actually use this as a way to take them through the functionality. So you can click on the policies and it'll sort of give you a bit of a tour of what each of the buttons do, what are some of the functionalities around it, how to operate it all. So that's a big thing. And the idea is obviously all our new functionalities will come preloaded into our system guide. So you'll be able to really use that and guide yourselves and your users through the platform and how it all integrates and talks to each other. So that's a great new tool. Another big functionality that we brought in was actually our role management. So hopefully a lot of you guys have already started to, and girls have started to use the system and understand it, but obviously the system is very much based around the roles. And when you add a new employee, you can assign that employee to a role. You can then assign the roles to certain safety checklists or certain safety responsibilities, and then the system can kick in there and start to really prompt you and remind you of things that are due. So one of the big things around the role functionality is actually giving the user or the administrator, I suppose, of the system complete functionality of what a role can and can't do. So if we create a role here called a manager, and I can give them access to undertake checklists, I can give them access to inductions and procedures, JSAs, which are job safety analyses, pre-starts, service checks. So you can turn all these on and off. And you basically, what you're doing is you're defining the side menu per role of what you want that particular group of employees to see. So if you create a management role and you want to give full functionality to that management role, then obviously you can turn everything on. If you create, say, an administration role or maybe a driver role or some sort of lower role that they don't need complete auditing functionality, they don't need administration rights to add employees or change system functionalities, then you can just simply take that away. We've also given the ability the file access permission. So per role, you can define the level of security that they're able to see in the document storage. So when you save a document or attach a document in Kendra Align, you can now define the level of security that you want to put on that document, and then based on this here, you can then define what particular files that role can now see based on that security. You also give them permission to create their own role and things like that, and edit roles. But the main thing too, we brought in part of this one, because these were here previously, is this organisational level permission. So what this allows to really do, and we can go through and show it, is you can define per role whether they're able to see any organisation level data. So when they first log in, they can see everything that relates to them and all their files and all their specific information. But the big functionality of here is actually allowing them to see not only their own information, but also the entire organisation's information. So this is where you can really define how much information you want a particular employee or a particular role to see of your data. So some of the things around, and these will eventually evolve as we get more more in depth into the product. But the idea, we've got the ability to turn on dashboard level organisational data, as well as incident at the organisational level as well. So that sort of, for us, our concept behind that was, if someone adds an incident that might be sensitive, that you don't want everyone in the company to see, then obviously that role won't be able to see that data. They can only see their own incidents. So that's a very good feature, and then you can play around with this and really turn it on. It's all live. Once you sort of changes it, you can just simply sign out, sign back in, and that'll show that functionality on that there. So that's a big one, and that sort of flows right through the dashboard. So at the moment, I've got my dashboard, but I've also can see my organisational dashboard. So once again, this is our test system that we're using for the webinar. So I can see my organisational score, my organisational incidents, how we're tracking at that level. But then if I want to look at my own particular information, that's where it's going to do. And that will start to feed. The dashboard's evolving the next month. It's released. There's a lot of new features coming on the dashboard. So that'll have a lot of new relevance. So it was a good one. Another thing that we've brought in under the compliance section, there's a functionality called non-compliance. So non-compliance is designed, most of these features are coming from our customers. So the users, hopefully the people on the webinar, are constantly giving us feedback, and we're implementing that feedback as soon as we can and as quick as we can. So a lot of this was needing somewhere to record any non-compliance activity, whether it's a slap on the wrist, whether it's a bit of a warning that might have been a verbal warning that you actually want to have documented and saved against that employee, or in the instance of the transport section, a lot of businesses are telling us they can use this for any mass management breaches or fatigue management breaches. So it's really just trying to give you a spot where you can add any non-compliance activity, so that you don't ever lose it, you don't ever rely on pieces of paper. So the functionality of this is basically adding a new non-compliance. Whoever's involved in that non-compliance, it then appears in their undertaken checklist section where they then either accept or decline. So I've sort of, added a few extra here, but if we pick up, say, one I've just added, site cleanliness and inspection. So this could be as simple as a safety officer's gone out to a particular location, realise that it's not good enough. So the person involved, obviously, I'll just put myself so it appears in my list. So, what the problem is, any recommended actions, obviously we can have multiple of that. You can upload any evidence. So we've got our typical proof, our evidence sort of functionality you'll see throughout the platform. So you can upload evidence as well so the person can see it. And then you can also set an acknowledgement as well. So whether you want the person to sign it, just agree. So you can do a bit of that. So once you've created that, it's then sent to the person who has been issued the non-compliant form, and it's up for them to then either accept or decline, and then it's saved against their profile. So you can sort of come back in, you can look at any accepted non-compliance activity, so an overload of a truck, for example, and also any decline. So this might be, I just added this earlier, so a late arrival. So we can have a look at that. I can see the original non-compliance, arrived late at work for the 5th time, recommended action was leave home earlier, and the actual employee declined and said, this is not the case, I pulled over to take a customer. to talk to a customer, that's why I'm late. So you get the ability to track accepted and also declined non-compliance entries. So that's a good one there that we're glad to see come into the platform as well. So then that feeds actually into this action section. So there's this new functionality under the undertake. We've got some more tabs, but we'll go through them later. But the idea is under this action function is any non-compliance activity will appear in here for that particular employee. So if I was to add a non-compliance for another employee, when they log in, this is how they would see it. A site cleanliness inspection logged by this particular person, and the status is awaiting. So all the user can do is undertake it. They can read, they can view any evidence and download any pictures, and they can write any comments if they wish. So, you know, it might just be I agree, for example, and I accept the warning. They can then digitally sign it and either accept or decline. So they accept, just goes to the acceptance stage, and it's now out of their action list. They can always go back and look at any accepted non-compliance or declined non-compliance. So there's full traceability there. But on the awaiting status, there's none there. And then if you go back into the non-compliant section, it's now no longer sitting in the awaiting tab, it's now sitting in the accepted tab. So you can really just keep a track of any non-compliance issued to any particular employee, so it's always there and saved against that profile. So that was a great feature. Another feature that we brought out from feedback from our users was some new question types. So I think the last webinar, I just created this demo question type. So I'm just going to pick that up, and you've all hopefully understand the idea of adding a checklist, adding different type of questions, allowing the employee or the user to fill in that digital form, which then comes back into a completed status, an undertaken status, and so the reoccurrence schedule kicks on. So part of the new question type we had, so obviously we've got the yes and no. So you know, if you add a yes or no question type and you put a question here, do you feel safe completing the task? The user simply answers yes or no. You have a text where the user has to respond with a text-based answer, and a date where the user responds with a date-based answer. So there, we've gone through that in previous webinars. So that's the functionality. Obviously, at any point in time, you can click and drag and move around, you know, which is fantastic. You can make it mandatory or non-mandatory. You can edit it at any point in time. But the idea is we've now created two more question types. So one is what we've called a multiple choice question type. So the concept of this is to be used for any multiple choice answer. So if someone's using this particular form or particular thing for, say, a site inspection, you know, please select which best describes the condition of the site. So then you can then come in here and select the answers that the person or the undertaker can only select. So very clean and presentable, acceptable, needs improvement, not acceptable. And you can add more. It's not just a 4 or 5. So obviously you can come in here and edit that. And we also have this button here, which selecting of that is actually selecting of the right answer. So when you actually go back and look at the undertaken checklist, you can actually see their answer and how that relates to the correct answer, I suppose, if you wish to apply a correct answer in that instance. The other functionality, new question type we've got is actually a time question type. So when you're undertaking a checklist, you can use this particular question to be, you know, used for a time answer. So, e.g., what time did you arrive on site? So, once again, we're providing a platform for any business out there, we feel, to manage their safety and compliance. So we're not trying to, you know, preload it with all these particular things that we want everyone to undertake. The idea is just provide every user the platform where they can then convert their normal manually created documents into some sort of digital format. So if you look at the preview function of that, these are these question types which we've been through before. But this is how the multiple choice question appears. So that's sort of it there. So you can sort of answer that quite easily. And this is how the time-based question. So you just click the clock, you know, 2:05 p.m. or something like that. So it's pretty intuitive. So that's sort of the functionality there. So that's another thing is around about the question types, which is great. Another big function which you might have noticed is that there's now a 5th step. So whenever you create a checklist or a question checklist, there's actually a fifth step. Now that fifth step is called the assessor, and there's a pretty particular functionality around that. Obviously you can turn it on and off. It's not a mandatory thing. But this came back from our users where they really wanted the ability where an employee to undertake a particular checklist, but they then wanted their supervisor to actually see that checklist and then somewhat sign them off. So the concept was based around, originally started with service checks, actually, where a driver or a mechanic, for example, might conduct a service of a vehicle, but maybe the actual supervisor or the foreman wanted to sign off on that to mark that it's actually, being done to a safe and satisfactory standard. So we went with that concept, and then all of a sudden our users were saying, well, hold on, why can't it be at training? If someone does a self-training thing where they answer multiple choice questions, it'd be great for the assessor as such or a supervisor to actually sign them off. So that's the functionality behind it here is whoever you put as the assessor, and you can have multiple assessors, it will appear in their action tab in the undertake section for them to basically sign off or to approve the undertaking of that checklist. Now, once again, you don't have to turn it on, but it's certainly got that large functionality there, which is absolutely great. So we'll go through this and we'll show you sort of how that functionality works. So once again, you can select different sort of acknowledgement types. So it's this really fluent dynamic form builder, and that's sort of sitting there now. So then under the undertake section, if we go back to that, here is, as we're aware, is all the things that me, because I've logged in as myself, have to do. Now, this is based on my company or the company's systems about all the checklists they wanted to create, whether it's a pre-start, a JSA, an induction, an audit, competencies, anything like that is all appearing here. And you can clearly see the reoccurrence that needs to be done. So we had that generic, this checklist demo question, which we just went into before. So if I come in here as a user and I now need to undertake that and complete this thing that my employees told me to do, I can see, I can turn around and answer this question, yes or no, to be used for text. So I can type in text. This is to be used for a date answer, so I can select the date. This is to be used for a number answer, so I can put that in. Any notes, so I can type in there. The employee question, so I can select an employee from a list. And any equipment, I can select my equipment from a list. I can also upload any particular files or anything like that. And once again, if I undertook this on the mobile app, then obviously I can use my camera or my photos. Rich question typer we've been through. I can watch the video live as well, which is fantastic. And then now I've got this multiple choice answer and also the time function. So let's say it's 4:05 p.m. So I can save that and then just simply the I agree. So this is no different to any other checklist, however you want to sign it and then submit. So once that checklist is submitted, it's obviously moved now to the completed status. So that's sort of where that functionality there. And obviously you can go back at any point in time, say on the reporting section, and select an employee and search, and you can clearly see any undertaken checklists that have been done, the answers that we've provided, any images. This is here, it's obviously bolded to show that was the correct answer, and the time. So all that functionality is feeding through. But the big thing too is because that particular checklist has an assessor function attached to it, it's also now appeared in my assessment list. So it's a bit of a weird example where the assessor is also the person undertaking, but we haven't limited that functionality. So came in here, check limo, who undertook it, the date they undertook it, and what the status is. So I can turn around and view their particular answered thing, or I can undertake there. So I can see their particular answers, how they filled in the form, and then I can literally say, I sign you off or something, however you want to use the functionality, it's there. And then you can save that as well. So just gives that complete traceability where if someone questions, oh, yep, I understand that you have undertaken this digital checklist, but has anyone actually signed you off to make sure that they're happy with the quality of the information you provided? So that's what that functionality does there. We've obviously also got a lot of JSAs, which we've gone through in previous ones, but that's a big functionality a lot of users seem to really enjoy. So a lot of businesses are already starting to feed in using it for COVID-19 self-screening checks and things like that. Because it's a mobile, they can do it from home if they have to before they even come to the office. So to me, I've set this up as a daily recurrence, so I need to undertake that daily. You know, how careful are you about cleaning your hands? So these are things, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't touch the aircon. And then a lot of businesses are using the risk calculator to really understand the score. So do you have a cough or fever? Do you have any shortness of breath? Typical possible COVID-19s. Look, it's level 6. It's good to know you're healthy and safe. You now can come to work. If there's any other symptoms, you know, please put them in here. And, you know, some businesses are even asking for temperature checks before they even come to work. So that's sort of one functionality. Some of the users are feeding into us of what they're doing quite well. We've obviously got another one, which I think I demonstrated last time, around a really big, large one. So, you know, the idea is that through the mobile app, users can turn around and answer these questions in any form they want. Still comes out that this is one we you know, a template we got from a Gippsland user, so we understand if they're travelling in and out of area and also in and out of the state, because obviously that can provide larger risks. You know, so it's constantly adapting, having any contact, and then obviously they can sign that as well. So got a lot of users are telling us that they're using it for COVID-19 related, you know, sort of health checks, and obviously all this is just feeding in quite well. So that, you know, there were a couple of little bugs in the early days, which I believe we've got under control. But then basically all the reporting is when you start coming under here, under JSAs, you can then say, well, let's show everyone that's done a COVID-19 self-check. So all of a sudden you're starting to get this real data coming through of everyone who's undertaking particular checklists, you know, that might be relevant. So all of a sudden you can really see this stuff alive. You don't need anyone involved, and it just feeds straight in. So that's there. We're really good. Another functionality, obviously, in the training section is we've had some people actually use this for create training documents. So I just sort of whipped this up this morning, COVID, you know, cleaning training. So you got staff returning the office, and you can turn around and create training documents, and they can undertake that. This is on a quarterly basis. So under the undertaken section, I've got this COVID-19 cleaning training, so I can undertake that. And this sort of just starts to show the versatility of what it could do. You know, you must wear gloves when cleaning, all the services must be clean. You go, yeah, I understand all that. No sharing office stationery. You know, you might be able to attach, you know, an in-house video, you've made one. So whoever's undertaking it can actually, you know, watch the video live and understand that as well. So the beauty of all this is as this thing and as this beast, what we call COVID, evolves, we can quite easily, at a business level, put in different things, instantly send it to our staff, and they can instantly undertake it. So we don't need to have these big group meetings and say, this is how we do things, this is what we've got to do, because we can just build forms, send it to these people who may not be on site, and they can understand it. So so you can, once again, it's the same functionality to the whole thing, but now I've got a record to say that of this person has undertaken the cleaning training module for COVID-19. Obviously, we also have the training log as well. So this is where if you really want to, you know, to record any major training events, you can turn around and do bulk training. So if you did some in-house sort of training, things like that, you can record all of that, which is fantastic. You can mention the training type. There might have been procedure training, any equipment if you did. You know, this might have just been a COVID-19 training course, you know, or cleaning, and how many hours you spent. So once again, all this feedback's coming in from our users, which is just fantastic. So all that sort of keeping there quite nicely. Another functionality that we've brought in, because a lot of our users were giving us feedback around, it was very hard to get an idea of what was assigned to a particular employee or a particular role. So we all go and create all these checklists and all these digital forms, which are fantastic. They need to be done. But then you lose track of obviously what an employee needs to do or what a particular role of employees need to do. So we've now created this new assignee report tab here, just under the basic reporting function, where you can basically drill down and say, well, let's see everything that Damien has to do. So all of a sudden I know, all right, he's assigned to this, he's assigned to that, he's assigned to that. What sort of thing? What's the reoccurrence? And when was the last updated date that this particular checklist is done? So some of the new functionality and features to come in the next month or so is really understanding what the employee hasn't done. So we need to know at a management level what our staff haven't done. So it's all well and good being able to find out what they have done, but the big thing I'm a big believer in is we need to know what they haven't done so that we can catch up with them and make sure that that our gaps in our safety system is getting plugged. So that's also a big functionality there. Once again, you can come in here, you can view it, you can sort of see the basic checklist of what it looks like. So you got all that ability there as well. So the dashboard, obviously, as we're starting to undertake checklists, their scores are changing from not just my dashboard, but also the organisational dashboard starting to increase because one person is undertaking a lot of checklists. So I can clearly see I've still got some stuff to do that on a daily recurrence. So, a daily truck pre-start, this is what I've got to do with a truck driver, so I can put my kilometres in, put my hours in. I can do that checking of an asset now. Obviously, you see a lot, we're talking trucks because obviously it was originally designed around the transporting industry. But as we've got this product out to the market, we're seeing a hell of a lot of businesses take it up that weren't in the transport section. So it's really good to see the versatility that's coming out of it and, getting an understanding. So also, there is a new functionality called Ignore. So under this ignored function, you can actually look at particular checklists that may not be relevant at the time, but you want to get them out of your list because they're, it's sort of filling up and I don't need to do it just yet because it's not relevant. So you can come in here and just ignore it. That'll ignore the checklist, move it here. So it really keeps this to be undertaken section clean so that any new checklist that the employer requires a particular employee to do, it feeds you here and they clearly know what they need to do. So we've also got the auditing function in here. We went through that last time and there's a lot coming around really specific reoccurrence dates rather than just a yearly or a quarterly. We can actually really pinpoint the exact date that audit needs to be done and even the exact time that it's due as well. So there's some good functionality coming in there in the next month or so. But I can see here I've got an audit that I need to do. So once again, I can, audit 7 drivers. What was the outcome? All clear. So you can use this for COVID-19 if that's a concern. Was this a pass? So it might have been a cleaning audit, that got approved and it's now done. So it's all coming through quite nicely. At any point in time, we're coming into actions and all of a sudden I've already, I've got another assessment here. So I need to click on that and I go, oh, right, this is a cleaning certificate that's been provided to an employee using the competency function. So I can turn around and say, approved, if I need to, and I can then sign that particular employee off in that particular certificate. So the idea is that these are going to be prompting you of things that need to be done, which is fantastic. We also have this non-reoccurring, so the non-recurrence function. So beforehand, that was all just grouped into the to be undertaken. We had a lot of users telling us that they create a lot of checklists that are on a non-reoccurring basis, and it's really clogging up what needs to be done on a daily basis. So we've separated that out. So at any point in time, any non-reoccurring things or forms that you want employees to fill in, they're sitting here in a nice tab, and they can just be undertaken at any point in time. And then, yeah, I've all got one left, the road truck induction for a Volvo. So then obviously my dashboard numbers are really starting to happen. So, I can see my score is 89%, my mass is 0. So I haven't undertaken any mass related documentation. I'm sitting about half of my maintenance. I can see all my competencies are 100% completed. So I'm really starting to see, me as an employee, have I done all the tasks that my particular organisation has set up for me to do? So you can see I've got 3, but I've only done 67% of them. So if I click on that, I've still got this induction to complete. So I can go in here and undertake it. Now, this is a large induction that has been undertaken in the past, but they never got to the end of it and finished it. So whenever you undertake a checklist, you can just click save, and then you can come back at a later date and finish it. But I can sign this off, complete that as a task, and then go back to my dashboard. And now my inductions are all up to scratch. So me as a business, or me as a user, in fact, I'm going, wow, this is great. I've got 1 service check remaining, and I've got 1 JSA remaining. And the reason they're remaining is simply because they're sitting in the ignored functionality rather than in the to be undertaken. So at any point in time, if you need to bring it back, you can view it, move it back to the undertaken status, and then that allows the user to then undertake that checklist. So the functionality's there. The mobile app's really coming alive. All this is in there as well, which is great. And then really all you've got from a dashboard point of view is the ability to select between organisational data and obviously user-based data. So that's really the features that have come out, that have really come out in the last couple of weeks. Hopefully a lot of the users are really understanding them, getting to know it all better. Certainly reach out to any of us if you have any problems, so that we can address them quite quickly. And yeah, I think the next month there's a lot coming online to really get this dashboard way more interactive for everyone. A lot of user feedback that we're getting, which is fantastic, and just can't wait to really get it tight for everyone. So probably one of the big things is on a particular checklist, we're giving the users the ability to actually print a checklist, and it'll be printed in a way where the user can actually undertake that checklist manually. So a lot of people are saying, look, it's all well and good to have this app, but there's often times where our staff just don't have access to smartphone. We want to print them a checklist at the office, take them out to this particular site, and then let them do what they need to do. So that's a really, really good feature coming very, very soon, which allows you to print a checklist based on the questions and the answers that you've asked for the user to fill in, pre-populates that printed checklist to be undertaken, and allows them to manually undertake it, which then maybe you can digitally undertake back in the office when they come back to base. So yeah, so that's really it. There's a couple of little things, a lot of little things coming all the time, which we don't need to go into too much detail, but people want to upload a photo. We want our ability to edit emails, and we want some of this sort of stuff. So a lot of that's all coming in, and we'll give that feedback as it rolls in. But at the moment, that's sort of where it's at. We're just waiting for people to really get into it, use it, try to break it, so that we can get it as tight as we can. So that's sort of it on the new feature release. So I might just hand it back over to Rish. And yeah, if there's any questions that come through, more than happy to take that on.
Yeah, thanks for that, Damien. It was really fantastic. So we had some questions come through, Damien. I think we've been answering them as we've moved along, but I'll kind of summarize, because it's probably important that we all refer to the questions. So there were a couple of questions around using of some participants expressed that signatures might not always be possible. So we've responded with the fact that you can either have manually signed signatures or you can have a digital signature, really up to the business, how we want to do it. Kendra Align, just to go into a little bit of detail of that, guys, Kendra Align captures the date and the timestamp every time a person digitally signs a checklist, even if they don't do that physical signature. So that is digitally deemed to be a legitimate signature, having been done from their own login, right? So That was one of the questions. Damien, did you have anything else to add to that?
No, not really. No, that's about right. I think too. It's hard to know who has seen previous videos and webinars and who haven't, but certainly the functionality throughout the whole thing is under acknowledgement. We want to allow the users to select it. So
Yeah.
acknowledgement with signature clearly has the signature box at the bottom. Acknowledgement with a message just has the message, whatever you want to type in there. That's all configurable, and that just allows you to do a checkbox. And also, you know, if there's actually no acknowledgement message, it's just literally just watch this and that's enough, then nothing appears at the bottom. So we're giving all that functionality right through the system, but certainly anything that gets done in digital signature, always there, never gets lost. And like I showed before, you know, you can definitely see the time that it was undertaken, and also the particular signature that was provided.
Yeah, and another question, which I think is very, very clever, very good question. I'm thinking some of you might have used the app on the field, and that's how you're asking the question, is what happens if a user's handset, you know, if they go to a new handset or they use a different handset, what happens to the data? That's actually a very good and relevant question. So I'm connecting two questions and answers together. So at the moment, what we've done, guys, is to keep it really simple for you. What you can do is you can navigate to m.kendraalign.com from your phone browser. You'd see me answering that in the chat. And that way, what will happen is from there, once any user logs in, any one of your staff logs in or you log in, they have full traceability across any device. And wherever you have left a checklist at, you're able to pick it up at exact that same stage on another device, whether that be a mobile or a tablet or a desktop. Right? So really good question there. Obviously, it comes out of someone using the system. Another one that I really liked. So I'm just trying to look into this. There's a question about JSA. So I think the one thing, just to add to what Damien had said, guys, we showed you a couple of JSAs and a couple of trainings that you can have for your staff, whether that's related to COVID-19 or safe work practices during this time. What we would love to do is, if you are already running some templates, or if you're planning to digitize any physical sheets or worksheets or, you know, safe work assessments, send them to our team. So Swapnil Sohani is our marketing manager in India, and he's you know, he does a lot of usage on Kendra Align as well. So Swapnil has a dedicated team who is there helping new customers create their assets inside Kendra Align. So if you've got a sheet that you would like digitally converted, well, you can do it all yourself. Obviously, Kendra Align has the functionality, like Damien showed you, but we are very happy to handhold you in the beginning and just give you a head start by creating 2 or 3 of your checklists, even if they're safety or COVID related. We'd love to do that and create that for you, right? I'll just quickly share my screen again so we can, you know, just go through some of the stuff. But in the meantime, you probably have seen some polls pop through. So Swapnil, thanks for doing that. If you all would be so kind to, you know, while we're talking, give us a little bit of feedback, because look, the aim of these sessions is to support our users better and better every month. So the more you give us in terms of feedback, the more you give us in terms of challenges, like Damien said, or feedback while using the system, the better we can make it for you, right? Just quickly, Damien, I'll share my screen if that's all right. So just to summarize, I guess, we all saw the features that Damien talked through. You all would have received an email if you've already subscribed to Kendra Align. Every user, not just account owners, but all users in your organization receive an email with all the new features that are coming out on a month. So you would have received an email from May 2020, which would have detailed all these. What we would say is, do encourage all your users to start using and undertaking checklists if you've not already done that. And hey, a step back, if you have not already signed up, or if you don't have an account yet, do sign up. I think Swapnil did send you a button to sign up there, but you can always find that on our website as well. It's not very hard to find, big blue button. Kendra Align has a lifetime free access tier. That is our contribution to the community. We actually have a free forever tier on the system, which will give you an unlimited amount of access to the system as long as you need to get comfortable before you start using some of the more serious features and more powerful features of the platform. And like I said in the beginning, this is an education series, so we do something different every month. So the next webinar is on the Tuesday, 23rd of June. So if you all want, please bookmark that date. We already have your email ID, so you'll be sure to hear from us, but maybe make that allowance. It would be the same time as today, so whichever country you're dialing in from, please make sure that you bookmark that time so you can be with us again and see what else is going on. Like I mentioned, if you have any specific checklist, please throw that our way, whether that's a checklist or a training or a job safety assessment, throw that our way and we'll love to have a crack at it for you. We do some company-specific demos. So if you have got a large user base and if you think that some of your requirements are a little more unique to what you've already seen or researched on Kendra Align, feel free to reach out to our team and we'll give our best assessment to you on how Kendra Align can best fit your needs, on whether or not that platform is enough or you need to do anything in addition to that. Yeah. Last not least, keep the conversation going, guys. So I see a lot of you already coming onto our Facebook and our Instagram and on our LinkedIn posts and asking questions. That's really great. It's a good way of being in touch without having to formally wait for this webinar once every month. So we really encourage you to follow us on social, and we'd love to follow you back and we can keep the conversation going there. And last not least, give us some bit of feedback and give us something to work on the webinar so we can keep improving that for you. So I think that's all we had for this time, Damien. If there's anything else from you, otherwise we'll wrap up and see everyone in a month.
No, all good, Rish. Looking forward to it.
All right. So thanks, everyone. Thanks again for joining on behalf of our team here and, everyone else who, who has used the system. If you have not started to use the system yet, we fully encourage you to go ahead and start using it. There's enough help available, so don't feel hesitant to dip your fingers. And if you do feel that it's proving to be a little daunting, just remember help's always around the corner. Give us a shout and we'll jump in and help you out. All right. Thanks, guys. Thank you so much. And we'll see you in a month's time. Thanks again for joining in today.